This has been such a powerful experience for me, hearing Pastor Matthew Sweeting talk about how they had to mobilize locally, internationally, and really in the process of confronting this massive tragedy hitting our country, they've learned a lot. Pastor, you've talked about supplies and food. What about people who want housing and jobs?
Yes.
You trying to provide that as well?
Yeah, we are taking a stab at trying to at least provide housing right now.
How do you do that?
That's a good question. We're still trying to figure out how to do this. We started 10 to 11 weeks ago by doing the only thing we could think of, which is to put everyone in hotels. And
That's expensive, eh?
It's very expensive. We were paying people's hotel bills every day for the first 8 to 9 weeks, and we had 10 hotels we were paying around New Providence. And it was just as expensive an endeavor as it was for us to buy jet fuel to fly airplanes and to also buy diesel to fill up the tanks of a mailboat and a yacht to deliver food and supplies, and we needed to put people in hotels first because we had to buy ourselves some time to figure out where are the apartments or the homes that are then going to house these people in the months and years ahead. And something happened that was so amazing to me. I would say this was not only serendipitous, I think it's just the way that God works. Of all the thousands of people walking through our doors at the community center every day, we had a lot of realtors who, realtors, this is what they do. They help you find houses. And we got into a room one day because, you know what happened first? Let me back it up 1 second. We established a call center because we have a command center that we set up for these storms. And as a part of this command center was a call center, and people started to ask us in the call center, I do need food, but is there any place for my family to stay? Our home is gone. And initially, to be honest with you, we didn't really have the answers for these people. We were like, what are we going to do about this? And I would say within the end of the first week, going into the second week, these realtors, some of whom were also answering the phone calls for us as volunteers, they decided on their own initiative to get together with other realtors, and they started banding together. And this is really what didn't just amaze me, it inspired me to see how an entire industry in our country, when they just come together and start leveraging all their knowledge, they were finding us apartments in a relatively short period of time. Now, eventually, the larger problem we had, and we knew that we were going to have this problem, is that there was a lack of inventory. There's only so many houses and apartments to go around. But we were very confident that this was the one group of people. If anyone could find the houses and the apartments, it was these realtors. So the realtors actually brokered and negotiated the hotel arrangements for us. They called the hoteliers and they said, what's it going to cost us if we can give you volume? Will you reduce the rates? Will you allow us to put thousands of people, in your hotel or your resort or your bed and breakfast? Will you allow that if we pay you, you don't have to worry about that. We will, we'll pay the bill. You just invoice us and we'll figure it out. And they brokered the deal for us. And then once we started seeing a lot of success with that, we then allowed this group of people to say, well, can you help us find sustainable housing? And we were using Airbnbs, homes, apartments, townhouses, you name it, whatever we could get at our disposal. This was the group of people. Once again, it takes a village to say, why don't you let us figure this out for you? Now, we're 10, 11 weeks into this. And so up until about last week, we had about 865 people and families in private housing. In some cases, we have up to 11 to 15 to 18 people in one house if we can get them a big enough house just to keep their family together, because they've already survived a hurricane. Sometimes the worst thing you can do is separate families when they're already traumatized. You have to keep the grandparents with the parents. You have to keep the grandchildren with the grandparents. You have to keep the uncles and aunts together because they're already fragmenting with all this trauma. And if you can just do the simple thing of keeping them together, they already know each other. But they do need someone to help them. For us, it's not just about putting a roof over their head. It's about keeping their morale high. And so, yes, we still do housing. It's been an adventure for us because sometimes we run out of money. Because to pay a landlord every week, and a part of this is we also write the leases. So we need to get people in our country who write leasing arrangements just so the landlords feel protected as well. So we're protecting the evacuees and we're protecting those who house them. And so this thing is a very complex approach. We've never done this before, but we do have close to 1,000 people, 1,000 families in private housing right now. And so we continue to rely upon these teams behind the scenes. We have a housing office that we now have in place on the island, and that's their only job every day. Is there a call center? The evacuees can contact them directly, and they can find out what do you need, and then they have to go about the task of finding a place to live. At this point in time, we're also renting a lot of unfurnished apartments because sometimes that's more accessible. And then once we get a family in there, then we start trying to figure out, okay, do you need a table? Do you need a mattress? What do you need to make your life sustainable? I'd like to say just something, if I could say this very delicately, we have had difficulty with some landlords who, I don't know what it is, but they profile our evacuees. And I don't know if that's fear or what that is, but they'll say to one family, you can come, but the other family, you cannot come. And I would just like to appeal to the Bahamian people. We need to see these people's stories for what they are. They've been through so much. Let's not be too quick to close our doors to them, because that's another trauma. It's another form of trauma, is to be rejected after you've already lost everything. And we will work with anyone, Dr. Allen, who, even if you don't have a home, if you want to rent a bedroom to us, we will pay you to offer your bedroom to a person. You may only have a bedroom, and that's all you can offer. That's good enough for us. We'd love to partner with you as a family, just to help someone get back on their feet. And if you need us to write your lease for you, we'll write your lease for you. We have a lot of experts. That's all they do is write leases.
Pastor, the hurricane season is supposed to end November the 30th. But as you said earlier, we're
6 months away from the next season.
How then shall we live?
I think the things we're doing now are preparation for every future storm. This is an opportunity historically.
So what you're doing at MPCC, you're saying the country needs to join this effort because we're in the hurricane belt. We've been denying it for many years. Now we have to come together and do what we have to do to survive. If not, we'll perish like fools.
Yes, we will not survive if we don't stick together. I was talking to a friend of mine who works in the Met office, and he says, hurricanes love the Bahamas. It's better in the Bahamas for hurricanes. Our water is shallow, and it's hot. And there's an alchemy for a storm, almost like a magnet attracts metal. Our country attracts these storms. Just purely from
it's scary to hear you say that.
It's scary, and then, a lot of the trouble we're having right now, and we're not the only ones. Even if you live in Boston and Miami right now, and certain parts of California, we sit so close to sea level. We have to completely rethink the way we build homes, how close to the coastlines. Do we need more seawalls? We're having some of the same challenges as people in California right now. It's completely rewriting the history of California purely because of sea levels rising. And a lot of the damage that I think we saw in Abaco and Grand Bahama wasn't just because the waves were large and there was a lot of moisture and wind. It's also because the water is getting higher. And this is a great opportunity for our country, along with anyone who thinks strategically and tactically about these things. I think we have to rethink everything for the future history of our country. We're talking about design. We're talking about sustainability. Can a house or a structure built a certain way, can it hold up to a Cat 5? Should we rethink the way we build homes? How do we put roofs on? What I would love to see happen, and these are some of the conversations we're having with our friends right now, can we put really amazing hurricane buildings on every family island where it's set up for deployment before the hurricane season. There's things in these warehouses to feed people. There's supplies, there's personnel that are trained. There are bulldozers that need to move trees. There's trucks that can drive through salt water. There's jet skis that can pick up people. We need to be ready. And these storms are showing us that we can't just react, we need to respond. The late Miles Monroe used to talk about that. He says, if all you do is react and you don't respond, you're never ready. Response is being prepared. And, what if Abaco had a building that was so strong that even though the storms are stronger, it has a much better chance of staying together than a typical clapboard house or even a regular concrete home? What if that building had medical personnel already in there, and bedrooms set up for people who lose their homes, and warehouses set up with food already stocked? What if we're ready before the storm comes? I'd love to see that on every major family island. And I think we're given an opportunity to rethink a lot of things. Where do you put people if they have to leave their island? Where are the beds? Where are the rooms? Where's the food coming from? And I think, I would also say, we're learning that we're such a small country. We're a beautiful country, but we have limited resources, but the world does not. There's a lot of money out there that can be leveraged, even the wealth of information, the expertise that disaster organizations have who travel the globe, helping countries just like the Bahamas, not only fix things after the storm passes, but get ready for the storm. We need to ask our friends for help. People love this country. They want to see the Bahamas get back on their feet. But, I think it would be ambitious to take any administration of any time to say, well, you have to fix this for us. I think it's going to take the private sector coming together, companies working together, as long as we can show this is where your money is going. And that is what we're trying to do. We're going to work really, really hard. We're going to show you, we're going to document where your money went. And we can change the way we do that. I don't think we should give it to people who already have too much to do. I think we need to hire and can create agencies that's all they do is disaster response. Let the experts guide us, and that's all we really did, Dr. Allen, with the storm. We asked all of our friends who are experts, can you organize us? Can you get us the fuel? Can you get us the airplanes? Can you get us the food? Because that's what they do. And you put enough of those people in one room, it's amazing what we're capable of doing. And all we really did is put those people in a room.
I know, Pastor, you're a very caring person. What was the effect of hearing all stories of traumatization, the loss of life, the fear, the panic? What's it like going through that? Day after day after day, children getting lost. A mother with 2 kids, one gets lost and she can't find the other one. How did you cope with that?
This is very difficult because it's so much easier to feed a person like that, but you can't bring a child back. I think what I experience on a regular basis in our country as a pastor is most of the people that I share life with, they don't have any support systems. And a lot of people.
And really, Pastor, you had a hurricane in Abaco before Dorian.
Yes.
Your sister, your beautiful sister, Misper, wonderful singer, died suddenly in February, right?
Yes, February the 1st. 45 years old, healthy, and dropped dead of a heart attack right in her kitchen, getting her son ready for school.
That was a hurricane for you, too. How'd you
Yeah.
cope with that?
This has been a difficult year, and
That was February and Dorian September 1.
This
So
is-
back
yeah.
to back for you, Pastor.
this is our first Christmas without her, and for a lot of families, this is their first Christmas without their loved ones. And I often tell people, you need to have someone in your life that you can talk to. It doesn't even have to be a pastor, but it has to be someone who cares about you. They won't judge your circumstance. And try to find someone who knows what they're talking about. And that's something that I don't just personally practice. It's something that I tell people all the time who are in crisis. Who's that one person It doesn't really matter what time of the night. You can call them. You can speak to them. They will bear the burden with you. And one of the things I'm seeing in our country, it's not working well, is people are trying to live their lives without community. And if you're
People are trying to do what?
they're trying to live their lives without community. They don't have support. I remember listening to a radio show many years ago where, this is in the Bahamas, they were talking about the amount of children born in our country who don't have relationships even with their fathers. And at the time, the person running the talk show said, I think it's 7 out of 10 kids. And then someone called in at the time from the Department of Statistics, says, no, it's 8 out of 10. Wow. And I don't know if that's true, but if it is remotely true, how do we tell our young people that your life matters? You may have never met the person you wanted to meet, but you need someone to walk with. You need someone to talk to. You cannot do your life by yourself. Wow. And I tell people all the time, because I'm constantly christening babies. I christen so many people's children. I tell them all the time, I have one biological father, but I have 3 surrogate fathers. So I have 4 fathers. And over the last 3 decades, I've relied upon these 4 men to guide me. One helps me think through business. One helps me as a pastor. One has raised me since I was a little boy. And the other one I go to for crisis. And they're the 4 fruits on my tree that I pull from, because I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. I have to call someone who's older than me and say, what kind of wisdom you have for me, because I really don't know how to fix this. Wow. I even have someone I call for my marriage, like how do my wife and I fix this? I have someone I talk to all the time about how to raise kids, because I have 2 boys, and I'm still trying to figure out how to be a father myself. I'm a work in progress. And I always want to tell people, who are your experts? Who's that person that knows about how to even help you balance your checkbook, or do a budget, or show you how to make sure your car doesn't run out of oil? Wow. And this is how I think our country can rebuild itself, because it takes a village to do this as well.
Beautiful. We're going to take a break and be right back.